This is KMCV Channel 7, the only local channel covering all of the CNMI.
You're just in time for KMCV News.
Coming your way in the next half hour, the island has a zone plan. An amended version excluding residential and agricultural areas was passed last night.
And Washington Representative Congressman Gallegly has indicated he will amend his bill to terminate the 702 agreement and impose U.S. immigration laws here.
And the CNMI's top gun in Judo is off to Australia. The returning champion will defend his crown.
Those stories and more, plus weather, all coming your way next on KMCV News.
Bank of Hawaii announces more good news for anyone who sleeps easier knowing their money is safe. Bank of Hawaii was just ranked the #1 performing bank in the U.S. by the American Bankers Association Banking Journal. So if you're looking for the peace of mind that comes from banking with America's #1 performing bank, come to Bank of Hawaii and rest a little easier. Make that a lot easier. Bank of Hawaii, that's my bank.
Buenas noches para todos hamzu, tautau Saipan luta zantinian, guahu si Carlotta Dilian Guerrero.
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday edition of KMCV News. I'm Glenn Wakai. We'll have weather and sports in just a few minutes, but topping our news this evening. You will soon be looking at a new Commonwealth. Say adios to the days of haphazard construction. Last night, the Saipan delegation voted to adopt the zoning plan, but not the one originally proposed by the zoning board. Nanette Miranda reports on the new version and how it will affect the growth of Saipan.
Almost everyone agrees that some sort of zoning plan is needed to control the growth here on Saipan. But when the zoning board presented their blueprints to the Saipan delegation, they ran up against members who were trying to protect the local people.
The board member, the zoning, those na special interest. Ufaisin si Cindy ko ha, mananalum input, put special interest lang itaza.
It seems like our concern is targeted and concentrated more in protecting the wealthy and the rich.
The zoning proposal came up for a vote yesterday afternoon, only to find that the 9 votes the plan got were not enough to pass it. By law, it needed 10. Representative Mameto Maratita, who had favored the plan, changed his mind at the last minute.
I feel sorry for those poor people because I know that they will suffer. Those people need a lot of money if we pass this bill.
In a desperate attempt to enact some sort of zoning plan, the delegation motioned to reconsider that vote, meaning they had nullified it. They had hoped that the 5 members who voted no could work on amending the zoning proposal before the delegation reconvened at 6 p.m. last night. In the end, it was Representative Heinz Hofschneider's amendment which made 3 members who voted no cross over, thus finally passing the zoning proposal 12-2.
Section 7, application of Saipan zoning law for agricultural and private residential uses. A. Saipan zoning law shall be suspended in all districts for all agricultural uses as defined in Section 3101. And for the following private residential uses as defined in Section 3102 of the Saipan zoning law.
What this amendment means is that the zoning plan will only pertain to commercial growth for now. The zoning board and the Saipan delegation will continue to hash out an amenable plan to regulate residential and agricultural zones. In Capitol Hill, Nanette Miranda for KMCV News.
Island leaders are gearing up for the May 4th budget hearings in Washington, D.C. The $120 million 702 multi-year financial agreement is on the table for discussion. Lieutenant Governor Benjamin Manglona will head the NMI delegation testifying before a House Appropriations Subcommittee. The NMI is battling legislation on several fronts. Virginia Congressman Louis Payne wants to see Head Note 3A taken away from us. California Congressman George Miller wants to see the garment factory quotas frozen at the 92 levels. And Congressman Elton Gallegly wants to put an end to our 702 agreement and impose U.S. immigration laws here. Washington resident Representative Juan Babauta will also testify at the D.C. hearings. He says the latest word from Washington is that Gallegli's hardline stance might be softening.
Changing the bill so that they be accommodating to the needs of the CNMI. And I must congratulate Mr. Gallegly for at least having the concern to address those issues in that fashion.
Instead of stopping it
sure.
to graduate it.
You know, he's not a totally mean guy. These are people who are saying to the CNMI, you have a problem, here's how we propose you deal with the problem. But they also realizes that it has some impact, whether negatively, and therefore they are in effect reconsidering their original proposal to amending it so that it's a gradual thing, so that we won't be too adverse to the CNMI economy.
The U.S. Senate will also sign off on the U.S. budget. Babauta says that he and the governor have received a list of questions from Hawaii Senator Daniel Akaka, who supports the 702 agreement. He asks how the Commonwealth Utility Corporation has expended funds, and he also asks about salary raises for government workers during the past 5 years. Babauta says that Akaka is gauging the need for further financial assistance for the NMI.
As the CNMI federal relationship changes, so too does the face of the Commonwealth. More and more foreigners are coming to the islands and getting pregnant. Tonight we begin a series of reports on the trend and what the growing foreign birth rate means to the CNMI. An increasing number of foreign laborers are going into labor. In 1988, 52% of the babies born in the Commonwealth were Chamorros or Carolinian. Filipinas represented 21%. In 1992, the numbers had reversed. Chamorro and Carolinian births dropped to 37%, while the Filipina rate jumped to 51%. Laurie Ogomura says the increase is a reflection of the young Filipinas that come here.
The women are all basically childbearing age. So therefore, they have that basic human right. If they so choose to, have a child, then they do, and they are in great numbers.
There's concern that Filipinas come here with the intent to give birth so the child can take advantage of U.S. citizenship. However, Philippine Consulate Administrative Officer Daniel Lorzano says they simply come here to work.
The primary intention actually of the Filipino women here is to work and to earn legitimately, not actually to have them become pregnant and become U.S. citizens.
We have to say that we have the right to come here to work, and they're brought over, and as a human being we have a right to find someone to have a relationship, and if they so choose to become pregnant and bear a child, that's their right. We can't.
Lorzano says most of the new mothers don't intend to stay here and want to return to the Philippines.
Most of those who applied here for travel documents for their children have been staying here for quite a number of years.
Nonetheless, Ogumuro says there are some contract workers that come here with the intent to have an American child.
They're doing that for very specific reasons, and that's only to improve their life in the long run. And, what's so bad about that?
Each new baby born to foreign mothers take away benefits from babies born to American parents. Tomorrow we'll examine the burden this growing segment of the Commonwealth is having on available social programs and financial assistance.
Coming up next, Congressman Stanley Torres would like to stop a leak in Gualarai.
And we leak out information on bouncing checks on a local business.
In court news, a man allegedly duped a Korean pastor into leasing a piece of land on Navy Hill in the last year. Today, the court found there's cause to charge Dong Chul Kim with theft by deception. Pastor Jung Min Yu reports that he signed a sublease for a piece of land from Kim in April of last year that would have been used to build a church. Kim allegedly told Pastor Yu the property is worth $225,000, and if the pastor paid him $45,000, the remainder would be a donation to the church. Yu says he made 3 payments to Kim amounting to $38,000. Government prosecutor attorney Russ Marsh says when Pastor Yu went to clear the land, he was told by the landowner, Joseph Rosario, that Kim did not have any rights to the land. Kim's now being held in jail and will face a trial.
In the wake of harder economic times, several businesses are finding it difficult in collecting bad checks. One businessman feels he'll be 50 years old before he can get the total payment of his customers' bad checks. Pamela Picardal reports.
People who've been issuing bad checks are causing a major problem to several businesses in the CNMI.
If these people are going to cheat you, if that's what their intent is, they're going to do it. They're either going to slide it on your employees, they're going to come slightly after 5 o'clock, they're going to come slightly before the bank's open, they're going to come on a Saturday, or, I mean, there's always some way they're going to do it. And I don't think there's no system to stop this.
Joe Moto made his statement after disclosing that a lot of businessmen like him feel it's devastating to them to receive bad checks from their customers. Moto says he's been going to court once a week in the past 6 months.
Well, I've got one case that I'm going to collect $75 a month for the next 16 years. So I'm 37 years old now. So 37, 47, I'll be well over 50 years old by the time I collect some of my money.
He urges all bankers to impose restrictions to people opening checking accounts.
There's got to be some restrictions. There's got to be some kind of an internal system amongst the banks that you bounce a check with one bank, that the other banks don't give you a checking account. Because I know people, they go to Bank of Hawaii, bounce checks there. Then they go open up a checking account at Bank of Saipan, and they bounce checks there. And then they keep going around all the banks.
Assistant Bank Manager Ron Guerrero says they've got a bank policy wherein they don't give out any confidential information to anybody. But their bank, says Guerrero, is keeping an eye on their customers and issuing warning notices if their customers fail to correct their mistakes. He adds sometimes the law is too lenient.
That's one thing probably where the law has to come in, though, and be more stringent in their punishment for those people who are really abusing.
Due to past experiences, several establishments say checks could be good, but they'd rather have cash. This is Pamela Picardal for KMCV News.
The Saipan Bankers Association will be meeting later this month to help curb the problem stemming from bad checks. President Dave Buehler says restitution for a bad check is not enough. He says the court should also tack on some time in jail.
The island is in the middle of the dry season, and the Water Division of the Commonwealth Utility Corporation is having a difficult time keeping the water reservoirs filled. Some of the pumping rates for island wells are down by as much as 25%. The CUC issued a directive on April 2nd asking islanders to conserve water. One lawmaker says pushing conservation isn't enough. He says CUC should improve its record for fixing water leaks.
What is that? This water leak on the side of the road in Gualo-Rai caught the attention of eagle-eyed Congressman Stanley Torres yesterday. He says he called up the Commonwealth Utility Corporation's Water Division to get the problem fixed. He says they sent a crew out in about half an hour, but it was the wrong crew. A sewer crew came and told the congressman that it was a Water Division problem. Torres says with the shortage of water on island, the CUC should respond immediately to water leaks.
Telling the people to conserve water, and here we are. CUC is not concerned of the water that is coming out from the main pipe, and this is the area that the people that are complaining that they don't have water. It's been wasted right at their front doorstep.
We talked with residents in the area to find out how the leak was affecting their water service.
We're just wondering, because there's that water leak down there at the bottom. We're wondering if how your water's affected. Do you have good water, or do you have water outages? Huh? What's your water situation like here?
It's okay.
So you got water all the time?
Yeah.
So the water leak at the bottom of the hill is not bothering you?
No. Everything's working good.
That was Martin Matau. His neighbor across the street, Jun Awit, has tanks on his roof, but he says he depends on city water.
How's your system, your water pressure and all?
Well, I think our water is running smoothly. I think it's 24 hours.
So you're pretty happy with your water service right now?
Yeah, very happy.
Mike Fittipol is also happy with his water service, but he says his pressure could be improved.
We're with the MCV News. We're wondering how's your water situation here? There's a leak over there at the bottom of the hill, and Congressman Torres is afraid that everybody's water would be affected. How's your water?
Oh, that's my water is still good. No, but that's the problem because they build slowly. That's one.
CUC's Water Division Manager Rudy Sablon says he sent another crew to the site this afternoon to verify and fix the problem.
No major problems with 4 island schools. After being put under a microscope, they can now breathe a sigh of relief. Several members of the Western Schools Accreditation Team presented their findings to the Board of Education today. After the meeting, PSS Commissioner William Torres says he sees a vast improvement in the school system and sees it improving more in the future.
Because the first time they visited San Vicente and Tanapac, and both are recommended for accreditation now. Oliai, Garapan, and Hubble Junior High School, and all of them are being recommended for accreditation. So, we really feel good about this. This clearly shows that we are, as he said, we're growing, and I think this will be an affirmation. It will be an affirmation that the public schools are, are really doing everything to provide the best quality education possible within the resources that we have.
Schools have until 1996 to comply with the recommendations that were issued by the accreditation team. And it's that time of the newscast where we have to toss it over to sports. Willie, what's going on in the sports world?
Well, it's Patriots Day in Boston. We have the highlights of the Boston Marathon. And our very own judo master is going to Australia to defend his title. For today, sports fans, in just a week from now, CNMI will be represented in the Oceania Judo Masters Tournament, and he will be defending his championship. Here's more on that story. Judo, the art of self-defense. You may think it's for the young and restless, but for Saipan, it's our masters who are making the limelight. By next week, Dalla Pozza Bruno will be defending his title, champion of the Oceania Judo Masters Tournament, for the 2nd time in Australia. And he is doing it to keep healthy.
2 years ago, it happened that I was invited to participate of the Master of the Pacific, which is for people who is over 40, over 50. And it happened that I won every match. So eventually now they said I have to go back and try to prove it again. So now it's almost 2 years, and I practice every day in order to win again. Because I do that for health, basically, to stay healthy. But eventually losing is not part of the game, it's winning.
Mr. Bruno used to spend his own money to compete internationally. The community, more specifically Intertex, is financing the trip this time so that Saipan can be represented again. We asked Bruno the 5 W's of the tournament and if he can bring home the title again.
And I will be in Perth. The first weight-in and selection will be on the 24th. The fighting will start on the 25th, and depends how many we will be, maybe we'll go till 26. But I will be home on the 27th because I got to go back to school.
So this is your 3rd time to...
Yeah. Yeah, I never dream about, I never thought that this would be possible, but like I said, to stay healthy is the primary goal I think that everybody should have. It just happened that I went to Australia and I won, so I will try to do it again.
And Patriots Day in Boston means the Boston Marathon. This year's winner was little-known Cosmas Ndeti of Kenya, who was running in just his 2nd marathon. The 23-year-old's time was 2 hours, 9 minutes, and 33 seconds. Here are highlights of that marathon.
Gorgeous day to watch, a punishing day to run. The sun warmed temperatures into the low 70s, turning two-time defending champion Ibrahim Hussein into a non-factor. An hour and 20 minutes into the race, defending women's champ Olga Markova had broken it open, running unchallenged. In the wheelchair, American Jim Knob wins his 5th Boston, breaking his world record by 4 minutes. Knob would be joined by women's record setter Jean Driscoll. 15 miles in, it was a two-man race between Lukut Swartboy of Namibia and Korean Kim Jae-young. After the hills, Kim begins to tie up. Swartboy shows no mercy. Kim is powerless, longing for a recovery, which is not quick to arrive. The suffering continues for Kim, only 2 miles from the finish. It is a Kenyan, Cosmas Ndeti, surging past him at Coolidge Corner. And Ndeti isn't finished charging. After going unseen by the leaders for 8 miles, Ndeti seems fresh, matching strides, taking the measure of the now laboring Swartboy. And he passes the Namibian, trying to make it 4 wins for Kenya in the last 6 years in Boston. 3 runners come down Boylston Street less than 1% of racing time apart. And it is the youngster who comes from Kenya to wear the laurel wreath at the running world's most fabled race. Cosmas Ndeti wins the 1993 Boston Marathon. And Markova wins the women's race in a vengeful romp, storming past a fellow Russian who had bumped her from the '92 Olympic team and leaving her with the